Shocking twist. Poor girl helps beggar at 3 a.m., only to discover he's a millionaire CEO. The city's pulse throbbed like a heartbeat at 3 a.m. Dark alleys whispered secrets and shadows stretched long, playing tricks on the eyes. In the cold, flickering glow of a streetlight, a girl named Lily hurried home, her breath visible in the frigid air. She clutched her worn-out backpack, the one with fraying straps, filled only with dreams and crumpled bills. Her heart raced for more than the eerie quiet. There was something off about this night. Suddenly a figure appeared, huddled near the dumpster. An old man, grizzled and ragged, sat there with a weathered face that told stories of lost battles. He clutched a cardboard sign that said, "Help a vet." Something in his tired eyes pulled her in. Lily felt a lump form in her throat, the kind of lump that comes when you see someone who's down on their luck. She reached into her pocket, where nickels and dimes danced like hopeful little stars. As she knelt next to him, he looked up, revealing a pair of eyes so striking they flickered with an intelligence that felt out of place. "Thank you, young lady," he muttered, his voice gravelly like dry leaves crunching underfoot. It was a simple act, but as a gentle gust swept through the alley, she felt a shiver crawl up her spine. This interaction felt like more than charity. It felt like fate. Time seemed to twist as she spoke with him. He shared fragments of an intriguing past. An architect, he said, who once designed skyscrapers that kissed the clouds. What in the world was he doing here? A soft glimmer of recognition shimmered in her mind, but she shook it off. It couldn't be. Just then, a chilling wind silenced the world. The hairs on her arms stood up. A scream echoed in the distance. It shattered the night's stillness. People rushed by, eyes wide, unaware of the hidden story unfolding in their midst like a movie scene waiting for its climax. Before we continue, I need to give you something important happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His weathered face softened for a moment, and he uttered a name that sent a shockwave through her intensity. James Hartman. The name exploded in her mind like fireworks. Wasn't he the CEO who vanished? The whispers, the media frenzy, the mystery? $1 million trophy gone into hiding. Was this him? Anxiety knotted in her stomach. She felt the darkness around them closing in. Time dripped away slowly, unspooling each raw heartbeat. "Help me, young one," he pleaded softly, as the shadows danced dangerously closer. In that moment she understood. It wasn't just about a beggar or an act of kindness. It was about choices, lives intertwined by threads unseen. Did she dare step further into the fray? Or would she retreat to the safety of her mundane existence? Lily's heart raced, an electrifying mix of fear and intrigue sparking in her chest. What awaited her if she peeled back the layers of this dark mystery? What if the man before her was not just a mere beggar, but a gateway to secrets buried deep beneath the city's surface? Each question hung heavy, begging for answers, as the night thickened around them, cloaking the truth just out of reach. The air crackled with tension, a palpable energy thick enough to drown in. Lily stared at the man. James Hartman, the elusive CEO, vanished without a trace. Her fingers trembled as she reached for him. She needed answers, and fast. "Why are you here?" The words slipped out, sharper than intended. He took a deep breath, the weight of his past hanging on every exhale. "I had to disappear," he said, each word a jagged edge. "Things got messy. A threat of betrayal." His gaze flickered to the alley entrance, as if someone might emerge from the darkness. Lily's pulse quickened. Was he in danger even now? Her thoughts raced. "What do you mean? Money can change you. People see it and they want it." "I was targeted, but I had to protect something far more valuable," he replied, his eyes piercing into hers. "A secret, a legacy." A loud crash sent ripples of fear down the alley. Lily startled, her heart hammering wildly. A group of rowdy drunken men spilled into the street, shouting and laughing, oblivious to the tension brewing just feet away. One of them glanced in her direction, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. Instinct kicked in. "Come with me," she whispered urgently, grabbing his arm, urgency propelling her forward. They slipped into a doorway just as the men approached, laughing like hyenas. The gamble paid off as they passed by, their raucous laughter fading into the night. Once shielded in the narrow hallway, Lily turned to James. "What legacy? What are you hiding?" He stared at her for a long moment, the flickering light creating a pulse between them. Then, without a word, he unzipped his jacket and reached deep into one of the inner pockets. A moment later he produced a small worn leather notebook. "This was my father's," he confessed, holding it close as if it contained the essence of his life. "He left me something I barely understand." "What is it?" Her curiosity spiked, panic and excitement interwoven in a tight knot. "I don't fully know," he admitted, voice low. "But it could hold the key to my past, to everything I built. And everything I lost." A voice echoed from outside, cutting through their huddled secrecy. "Hey, where did they go?" It was one of the drunken men, now searching for them. A chill ran down Lily's spine. "Shoo!" she hissed, pressing herself against the wall. Her heart thundered, and breathless anticipation filled the air. "Listen, I don't know if you understand what's at stake," James said, urgency fusing his tone. "I need to find out what's inside this notebook. It could either save me or destroy everything. What if we get caught?" Each word dripped with fear, every second stretching into eternity. He stepped closer, urgency etched in his weathered features. "Then we fight. But it won't just be us. Thousands could be impacted by what was lost." The realization hit like a freight train. This wasn't just a harrowing night. It was a potential turning point in lives they hadn't even begun to comprehend. He had to be telling the truth. The specter of his past loomed, dark and restless just outside their fragile sanctuary. "Okay," Lily breathed, a rush of bravery igniting in her. "What do we do next?" "First we must get out of here." Then his voice trailed off, the weight of unspoken decisions and chaos clinging in the air. Suddenly, the door behind them rattled. Feathered shadows crept closer, as danger hovered in the silence that followed. The night was thick with inevitability, and they both knew the stakes had just risen. What would happen if they stayed? Could someone be watching? "Are you ready to step into the unknown?" he asked, eyes sparkling with possibility and terror. More than ever. And with that, they both understood there was no turning back. In their next move, a decision would rip through the layers of their lives, binding them into a fate they could never follow alone. But who else was out there ready to challenge them? Who would win in this game of shadows? The door rattled again, more insistent this time, as if something or someone on the other side was desperate to get inside. Lily's breath hitched, each heartbeat a drum pounding in her ears. "We need to go," she murmured, panic edging her voice. James nodded, his eyes flickering to the door. "Right behind you." They ducked low, the shadows swallowing them whole as they slipped out the back of the narrow hallway into the stinking back alley. The cool air hit Lily's face like a splash of cold water, jolting her senses. They sprinted, every step feeling like a countdown. "Where do we go?" she whispered, barely able to keep the desperation out of her tone. "Towards the docks," James said, his breath coming out in quick bursts. "I have a place nearby. We can stay hidden there until it's safe." Lily nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. What if they were followed? The darkness felt alive, shifting and swirling as if waiting for them to let their guard down. She could still hear the drunken men's voices echoing down the street, laughter bubbling over, but she couldn't focus on that. Not now. As they rounded a corner, James suddenly halted, grabbing her wrist with a grip that felt both protective and urgent. "Wait." Lily's heart raced. "What is it?" He squinted into the distance, where the streetlights flickered uncertainly. "I thought I saw someone." A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man, clad in a black coat and a cap that masked his face. He moved with purpose, eyes scanning the surroundings like a predator hunting its prey. Lily's throat tightened. "James, we can't," but before she could finish, the man turned abruptly, locking eyes with James. An icy chill ran down her spine. In that instant, she saw recognition flash between them, both fear and hostility charging the air. "Get down," James hissed, pulling her behind a stack of crates as the man veered closer. Lily's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a war drum. She felt the familiar grasp of fear twisting in her stomach. "Who is he?" "The one I was running from," James whispered, his features sharpened with tension. He can't know I'm back. Not now. The figure stopped, scanning the area, searching. The glint of a gun at his hip sparkled ominously under the streetlight. Lily's blood ran cold. Thoughts raced through her mind, each one darker than the last. Stay still, James murmured, breathless. Lily nodded, but in the silence, the weight of choices pressed down upon her. What were they doing out here? Was this really about to end in bloodshed? There was so much at stake: her life, his legacy, the people they didn't even know depended on the outcome. The man took a step closer. Lily held her breath. Instinct urged her to bolt, to run, but resignation settled over her like an unwanted blanket. What choices had brought them here? Then it happened. A noise erupted from behind them. The door to the alley slammed open. They were no longer alone. Hey, what are you doing back there? It was one of the drunken men, now in the alley, looking for a fight. Chaos erupted as the man in the black coat turned, gun drawn. Run! James shouted, urgency breaking through as he shoved Lily forward, his eyes wild with panic. They darted into the night, hearts racing, feet pounding against the hard pavement. The distant sounds of shouts and scuffles faded behind them, but the feeling of being hunted lingered in the air. Stop! Came a voice, loud and commanding. Lily glanced back as she ran, only to see the man with the gun racing after them, fury painted across his face. Don't look back. Just keep moving, James yelled, pulling her along as they rounded another corner, desperately searching for safety. But what fate awaited them at the docks? Would they find refuge or face more danger? Time was running out, and every choice they made seemed to pull them deeper into a web of darkness. And in the distance, the ominous sound of sirens began to wail, closing in on their trail. Where would they turn next? What secrets awaited them on the water's edge? The cold asphalt felt harsh beneath their feet as Lily and James sprinted forward, heartbeats drowning out the chaos behind them. A desperate glance over her shoulder confirmed that the man in the black coat was gaining on them, his strides long and purposeful. James! He.S. coming. Panic crept into her voice, thick and suffocating. They needed to find shelter now. Every instinct in her screamed that the ally behind them wouldn't be safe for long. I know. James strained, his muscles coiled with urgency. To the warehouse just ahead. He pointed and Lily squinted against the dim light, sighting an old structure looming in the shadows. Metal walls rusted and peeling. It stood like a guardian of secrets, but could it keep them safe? They bolted for the door, the heavy sound of their footsteps echoing off the grimy walls. As they reached the entrance, James yanked it open, the creak of rusty hinges a chilling invitation. Inside, he ordered, guiding her through. The warehouse smelled of damp wood and old machinery, the silence heavy and oppressive. Lily could barely catch her breath as they stumbled deeper into the darkness, each step pulling them further from the chaos of the outside world. Do you think he followed us? She whispered, heart hammering. James shook his head, his eyes darting around, scanning every corner of their temporary refuge. We need to hide. He might have lost us, but I can't take that risk, he said, his voice laced with tension. They crouched behind a pile of crates, breath mingling with the stale air, waiting for a sound, any sound that might signal their pursuer. The sounds of the city faded into an eerie quiet, replaced by the distant sirens that continued their wailing somewhere in the night. Listen. James leaned closer, voice barely above a murmur. If he finds us before he could complete his thought, the echo of heavy footsteps thundered outside the warehouse. Each step reverberated like the ticking of a clock, counting down to some unavoidable confrontation. Lily felt her heart race in her chest, every pulse a reminder of how close they were to danger. What do we do? James pressed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. The footsteps stopped just outside, followed by the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. She froze, her breath caught in her throat, the weight of the moment dragging heavily on her shoulders. Get ready, he whispered, his voice low and urgent. If he comes in, we'll have no choice. A blinding light pierced the darkness as the door swung open, illuminating the warehouse with an unsettling glow. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the moonlight. The man in the black coat. Come out, James. His voice echoed, cold and commanding. You can't hide from me. Lily braced herself, adrenaline coursing through her veins. They couldn't stay concealed forever. Would they fight? Would they run again? Then, A sudden shuffling noise from behind the crate startled her. She turned eyes wide. Someone was there. A shadow moved, and before she could react, it burst into the open, facing the man in the black coat. "Who are you?" Lily gasped, recognizing the figure. It was someone from the past, a name buried in her memories, one she never expected to see again. The man chuckled, a low menacing sound. "You don't want to find out," he taunted, his gun aimed steadily at James. Lily's heart dropped. Could this be it? Would the past swallow them all in one dark moment? In the tension that hung heavy in the air, choices hung like a tightly wound rope, ready to snap. As the truth began to unravel with every heartbeat, she realized that the line between ally and enemy could shatter any moment. But what was this figure doing here? And why did the chill in the air feel even more sinister now? The stakes were rising, tension stretching thin. Would they break apart? Or would a surprising alliance stand against a common threat? In that heartbeat, the night took on a life of its own, and the shadows deepened, shrouding them in uncertainty. All hope hung on the fragile thread of what would happen next. Lily's mind raced. Who was this figure standing in the warehouse, and why did he look so familiar? The man in front of her had eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. The gun in his hand was steady, but the threat in the air was thicker than the silence surrounding them. "James, you should have never come back." The man's voice was surprisingly calm, but it held an edge like a knife ready to strike. James straightened, defiance crossing his face. "You don't get to dictate that to me, Jim. I need answers." "Answers?" Jim's laugh was sharp, unhinged. "You think you'll get answers after all that has happened? You have no idea what you've walked into." Lily exchanged a glance with James, uncertainty mingling with fear. Every instinct screamed that they were out of their depth. "What do you mean?" James pressed, fists clenched. "What have you done?" "I've protected our secrets. And I'll protect them no matter what," Jim replied, his gaze flicking to Lily. "You're just a pawn in this game. She is too." His voice turned menacing again, and Lily felt the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. Before she could react, a shadow shifted behind the crates again. Another figure emerged, this one tall and imposing, dressed in dark clothes and carrying an air of authority, a counter to Jim's composure. "Step away from them, Jim." "Who are you?" Jim responded, a flash of annoyance passing his features. "Don't worry about him," the new figure said, keeping his eyes locked on Jim. "Worry about what you've unleashed by coming here." Lily felt herself caught in the middle of this twisted standoff between familiar pasts. It was like watching a train wreck happening in slow motion, every moment stretched to unbearable lengths. "I'm not going anywhere," Jim countered, pointing his gun in a wild arc, uncertainty flooding his eyes. "You both need to understand I know things that could ruin lives. I will shoot if I have to." James stepped forward slightly, shielding Lily. "You won't hurt her. She's not part of this. Whatever this is." Again the atmosphere shifted, crackling with tension. "You believe you can protect her? You have no idea how deep the rabbit hole goes, my friend," Jim spat. But his resolve wavered as the newcomer moved closer, calm but powerful. "Let us make a deal instead," the newcomer suggested, his voice smooth yet commanding. "You walk away from this, Jim, and I won't have to make you regret it." The pulse of danger in the air grew tighter, like a noose around them. Could Jim really be persuaded to back down? Was there another option? Lily's heart raced as she searched the shadows, alarmed that the target of their ordeal might shift yet again. But the windows of the warehouse reflected only darkness, hinting at threats yet unseen. "Your deal means nothing to me," Jim barked, shifting his grip on the weapon, sweat gleaming on his forehead. Suddenly, another noise like the crack of thunder erupted from outside the warehouse, sending a jolt of panic through Lily's veins. Sirens closer than before. "James, what do we do?" she whispered urgently, the weight of fear pressing down harder than before. They couldn't stay hidden forever. The slightest misstep could cost them their lives. The newcomer shifted slightly, eyeing the door. "If we don't act now, we might not get another chance." There was urgency in his tone, a hint of desperation mingled with determination. In that heartbeat they stood on the precipice, the air thick with choices that could dictate their fates. As the sirens wailed outside, a flicker of hope glimmered among the darkness. But could they trust this new figure? Or would Jim's desperation force them into the ultimate confrontation? Lily gritted her teeth, knowing deep down that the moment was now. Would they escape unscathed? Or was this just the beginning of a night fraught with peril? The choices ahead lay shrouded in uncertainty, and each step could lead them closer to salvation or destruction. Adrenaline surged through Lily's body like a fast river. She could hear the distant sirens getting closer, a sound that underlined the urgency of their situation. James's face was set, a mixture of fear and resolve etched deep in his features. He was ready to fight, but was that the smart move? "James," she whispered, urgency trembling in her voice. "What if we just run?" But her words seemed to vanish in the tension that crackled between them. Jim's eyes darted between the newcomer and the door, calculating, desperate. The gun trembled slightly in his grip. "You think I'm letting either of you walk away?" His sneer twisted into a grimace. "You're both in my game now." The newcomer stepped forward, unimposing but somehow exuding authority. "You're outmatched, Jim. This isn't just about you anymore. Let it go." Lily felt the weight of his gaze searching her, as if he could see into the depths of her soul. She remembered the panic that gripped her just moments before. Would they really have to confront Jim? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the warehouse, rattling the unresolved tension in the room. Everybody jumped, eyes darting toward the noise. The newcomer flinched, at once alert and furious. "This is a negotiation, Jim." But Jim didn't flinch. Instead, he twisted his body to point the gun at the dark corner from where the noise came. "Show yourself." Lily's heart raced. The finality of Jim's words hung in the air like a thundercloud. She instinctively grabbed James's arm, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, battling the rising fear. James," she stammered, "what is happening?" "Just focus," he replied, his voice taut. "Keep your head down." Before she could react, another figure emerged from the shadows, this one smaller, creeping out with eyes wide and shifty. It was a scruffy young man, barely out of his teens. He looked terrified and out of place, yet something in his demeanor hinted he was no stranger to trouble. "Jim, I didn't mean to," the young man stammered, glancing around the room in panic. "I thought I saw someone, I swear if you don't shut up." Jim snarled, rage boiling. But in that moment of distraction, the newcomer seized the opportunity, lunging at Jim. Time slowed as fear and urgency twisted in a chaotic ballet. The gun went off, a deafening sound that ricocheted off the warehouse walls. Lily felt a jolt as the world shifted. The newcomer crashed into Jim, sending the gun flying across the floor. "Run!" the newcomer shouted, scrambling to his feet as chaos erupted. James grabbed Lily's wrist, pulling her toward the exit as the sirens wailed louder, closing in. But just as they reached the door, Jim scrambled on the ground, swiftly retrieving the gun again. "This isn't over. I'll find you," he roared, a promise laced with a venomous threat. They burst outside into the cool night air, the bright lights of police cars spilling onto the asphalt. "Where do we go?" Lily gasped, trying to catch her breath. "Anywhere but here," James shouted, urgency replaced by a frantic need to escape. As they dashed down a narrow alley, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed behind them. With every heartbeat, the shadows of the warehouse faded, but the darkness loomed larger ahead, filled with unknown dangers. They turned a corner, urgently weaving between abandoned cars, adrenaline racing through their veins. What had they stumbled upon? Just then, Lily felt something cold against her back, a small device that she couldn't see. A choking certainty washed over her. What was that? She yelped, panic flooding her voice. James halted, turning wide-eyed, but it was too late. The pursuing figure was there, an agent of Jim's wrath. With nowhere to hide, Lily thought one thing. Who else would come for them now? Would the night ever end? And in the silence that followed, one thought loomed above all else. What had they just ignited in Seattle's underbelly? The cold metal pressed against Lily's back sent a shiver through her. Panic roared in her chest like a freight train. She turned her head just slightly, catching a glimpse of the figure behind her, a hulking shadow in the dark. "Lily, move!" James shouted urgently, and before she could think, he lunged forward, pushing her out of harm's way. But the sudden shove almost made her stumble, and she was grateful for the wall that broke her fall. The next second felt surreal. Time stretched as she watched the pursuer. A man with rough features, clad in a tactical vest, was prowling closer, eyes glinting with determination. He was hunting them, and she understood then that the chaos wasn't over. Stop! The command echoed sharply as the man blocked their escape. His voice was deep, foreboding. The glint of a badge caught the dim light, flashing several colors before her eyes, a badge that screamed authority. James stepped in front of Lily, shoulders tense, arms ready. "You don't want to do this," he warned, voice steady but cracking. She could feel him trembling slightly, the fear radiating off him was palpable. "Oh, but I do," the man replied, menacing smile spreading across his face. "You two have stirred up quite the mess. Jim won't let this go, and neither will I." Suddenly, more figures appeared from the shadows surrounding them. The cold grip of dread clenched around Lily's heart. The sirens were no longer just distant. They were right there, drowning the night in chaos, blurring the line between friend and foe. "Lily, listen. We can't stay here," James urgently whispered, holding her elbow tightly. "We need to split up. It's our only chance." "Split up?" she protested, her voice a frantic whisper. "Are you insane? Just let us stick together." But James shook his head, determination gleaming in his eyes. "Trust me. We can't let them catch us both." In that spine-chilling moment, something shifted within Lily. Images of what lay ahead flashed through her mind, being carted away by these ominous figures. Jim's enraged threats echoing in her thoughts. Before she could voice her fears, James moved, darting into the darkness, arms outstretched. "Go. Now." He disappeared down another alley, leaving her breathless and torn. The men were closing in, shifting their focus to her. "Hey!" one of them shouted, lunging toward her. Lily's instincts kicked in. She spun on her heel, bolting down the narrow corridor. Every pounding step echoed her racing heartbeat. She could hear their footsteps pursuing her, each sound amplifying her fear. Her mind raced as she took an unexpected turn, desperately searching for somewhere to hide. The alley unfolded like a maze, but fear propelled her forward. As she rounded another corner, she saw an old door slightly ajar. Heart pounding, she slipped inside, breathless. Inside, the air was stale, holding its secrets close. A slim ray of light from a cracked window offered her little comfort, but it allowed her to peer into the dim space. She held her breath, straining to hear the footsteps retreating. Outside, the chaos consumed the night. Lily pressed her back against the wall, trying to quiet her racing heart. The silence was deafening, almost mocking. She thought of James. Was he safe? Then, as if guided by a cruel fate, the creaking of the door interrupted her thoughts. A figure slipped inside, cloaked in shadows. Lily gasped, her body tensing, ready to fight back. But as the figure stepped into the weak light, she recognized the familiar face, wide-eyed and breathless. "Lily! Thank God!" The newcomer was sweaty, illuminated by fear and urgency. "We need to get out of here now. What are you doing here?" She barely managed to ask, her voice trembling. But before he could answer, sirens blared closer, shattering the frail silence that had wrapped around them like a cocoon. The walls seemed to close in as dread tightened its grip. "Lily, listen. We've got a big problem coming our way," he warned, frantic determination spreading across his features. And just like that, between the clamor of the police and the shadows closing in, the question surged to the forefront. Who were they really running from now? "Come on, we need to hurry," the newcomer urged, his voice barely above a whisper, urgent and tense. Lily felt her heart race again as she peered into his eyes. "Nick, her childhood friend. What are you doing here?" she whispered harshly, glancing toward the door, listening for the approaching chaos just outside. "No time for questions," he insisted, pushing her gently but firmly, guiding her through the dusty, cramped space. Amidst the heart-stopping adrenaline, something flickered in the back of her mind, images of their days together, laughter echoing in playgrounds, secrets shared under starry skies. But right now, the warmth of nostalgia was overshadowed by fear. "They're coming for us." Nick nodded, his expression stark and focused. "I know. We need a way out, and it's not through the door." He scanned the surroundings. Against the back wall, a rusting metal grate barely caught her eye. It was small and could be their only chance. She felt nauseous at the thought of crawling through. "Isn't there another way?" "No." His voice was sharp, cutting through her hesitation. "We've got to move now." He dropped to his knees, yanking at the grate. Metal screeched and rattled as he struggled to pry it open, and Lily felt the weight of impending doom bear down on her. The wail of sirens blared even closer now, merging eerily with the shouts of those hunting them. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she remained frozen, caught between moving forward and the fear of what lay beyond that narrow opening. Lily! Nick's urgent tone jolted her back. We have to go. Okay. She knelt beside him, forcing her trembling hands onto the metal. Together they finally wrenched it loose. Dust billowed into the air like a thick fog, blinding them momentarily. Nick nodded towards the dark tunnel that lay behind the grate. You first, just like we practiced in the treehouse as kids. The memory brought a flicker of strength, but as she climbed inside, her heart pounded louder than the sirens. The narrow space felt suffocating, shadows stretching out like a dark embrace. Lily! Go! Nick's voice followed her, urgent and close. She crawled deeper into the tunnel, every sense heightened, the darkness enveloping her. She could hear Nick behind her, the scrape of his movements creating a stark contrast against the mounting noise above them. Then silence. She paused, inching back slightly. Nick? No answer. Panic clutched her throat as she pushed forward into the pitch black. Minutes felt like hours. Each sound echoed ominously in the dark. Her breath shredded as anxiety clawed at her. Just as she turned back, a sudden crash echoed through the tunnel, rattling her senses. She felt the walls closing in, fear gripping her tighter. Lily! Just stay quiet. Nick's voice, now hoarse, echoed from behind, sliced through the silence. Just as she dared to breathe a sigh of relief, the tunnel shuddered with a deep rumble. The quake intensified, knocking loose dirt and debris from above. She scrambled forward as the noise grew, booted feet pounding above them, a voice shouting orders. What the hell is this? The voice barked. They can't have gone far. Her heart raced as Lily's mind clashed with reality. A confrontation was coming. Their past would be their worst enemy tonight. Faster! Nick urged. We can't stop now. They had to keep moving, but the fear of discovery loomed larger. Doubt crept in as the realization struck. They were racing against not just their pursuers but their own secrets as well. What lay at the end of this dark tunnel? Would it be freedom or an even deeper nightmare? Lily pressed on, feeling the tremors beneath her, and with every inch she wondered. Was this truly the end of their escape, or just the beginning of something darker? The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly before her, a suffocating maze of darkness and uncertainty. Every inch she crawled felt like a lifetime, the weight of every moment pressing down like lead. Nick? She called out quietly, her voice trembling as it bounced back, heaving against the silence that surrounded her. Fear twisted in her stomach, knotting tighter with each breath. Why wasn't he right behind her? Keep going, Nick urged, his voice ragged yet close enough to keep her tethered. I'm right here. Just a little further. Ahead, a faint glimmer flickered in the distance, a teasing hint of light. It pushed her forward, igniting a flicker of hope beneath the suffocating blanket of dread. She dropped her shoulder and propelled herself deeper into the tunnel, gritting her teeth against the cold, hard ground that scraped painfully against her skin. Lily, can you hear me? His voice strained again, this time underscored by the throb of chaos above them. We're almost there. Her heart raced. Almost where? The exit. The ground quaked beneath her, and the distant shouts grew louder. They're on our trail. Nick's panic shot through her like ice. Hurry! Waves of adrenaline coursed through her veins, pushing her onward. The light grew brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat ahead. She couldn't afford to think, not now. Behind her, the sound of cracking metal met her ears as the straining tunnel began to vibrate ominously. Lily! Nick shouted again, but his voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a crashing sound that echoed like thunder in her ears. Terror surged within her. Nick! No! She screamed, scrambling against the impurities of the tunnel floor in a desperate lunge toward the light. But the weight of dread was becoming unbearable. She felt the walls constricting around her, the air growing heavy and suffocating, and then suddenly she broke free. The tunnel spat her out into the open air, tumbling her onto a damp grass patch under a star-strewn sky. She gasped, the world exploding into vivid color as she lay there. But it didn't last. Lily! Nick's voice broke through, closer now but filled with urgency. She turned just in time to see him emerge, but as he stumbled into the moonlight, she froze in shock. A figure followed him, shadowy and menacing. It was another man, taller, and clad in dark clothes that seemed to drink in the dim illumination. He moved with an unsettling calmness, and his eyes glinted with an awareness that made her blood run cold. "Run!" Nick yelled, his voice reeking with panic. "Get out of here now." Lily's legs felt heavy, rooted in place as terror washed over her. The man's expression was unreadable, yet there was an air of confidence about him that hinted at danger. "Nice try, but you both can't escape this," he said softly, his voice smooth as silk. Without thinking, Lily sprinted away from him, not looking back. Behind her she heard the clash of footsteps, Nick's desperate shouts urging her on. They tore through the open field, heart pounding, adrenaline surging, but she could feel the darkness nipping at their heels. Where were they heading? What awaited them at the edge of this strange land? Lily took deep breaths, filling her lungs with free air as they neared a distant fence, the threat gnawing at their backs. The next moment felt surreal. Just as they reached the fence, a blinding light flickered overhead, illuminating the night sky. Beneath that electric glow, a chilling realization crashed over her. Nick, who was that man? She stopped, eyes wide with fear. The color drained from his face, and in that moment she knew. The truth was darker than either of them had anticipated, and they were about to unearth secrets that could shatter everything they thought was real. "Lily," he began, his voice trembling. "You don't want to know," and with that, the ground beneath them rumbled once more, unraveling everything they thought they knew. The world spun as shadows closed in, and her mind screamed in terror. But reality was already shifting, just as Lily felt her feet give way beneath her. What lay ahead was shrouded in uncertainty and fear, and before she could even comprehend what was coming next, blackness enveloped them once more. The sound of rushing water filled the air as Lily and Nick stumbled to their feet beside a murky creek, its currents pulling at the edge of their reality. She gasped for air, heart racing as adrenaline sang in her veins. "Where are we?" Nick's voice cracked, mirroring the panic etched across his face. "Don't ask me," she shot back, her breath hitching. "Just keep moving." Behind them, sirens echoed ominously in the distance. Their pursuers, relentless and shadowy, would follow until they found them. The urgency twisted a knot in her stomach as the reality of their situation pressed down on them. "Lily!" Nick shouted, suddenly stopping mid-stride, his eyes wide with fear. "We can't just run forever. We need a plan." "The notebook." "The notebook?" She interrupted, her voice rising. "Do you think this is about that? We're about to be caught, Nick." "I know it's crazy," he insisted, gripping her shoulders tightly. "But James, he needs that notebook. It might explain everything, the people behind this, Jim, why he was targeted. If we can just get it." Before she could respond, a rustling shed light on the path behind them, and her heart plummeted. They were out of time. "Go." She pushed him forward, eyes darting to the shadowed forest thickening around them. "Lily!" Nick's voice trembled with determination. "Wait, just trust me." Without looking back, she launched herself down the narrow bank alongside the creek, each slippery step pushing deeper into the unknown. The moon glinted on the water, and for a moment, it looked so peaceful until she heard it again. Voices, merciless and close. "Split up," she yelled, ripping the silence. "We'll have a better chance if we do." Lily, but she was already tearing through the trees, heart pounding. They had been friends forever, but right now nothing mattered but survival. Shadows danced around her, and the scratching of branches pulled at her skin as she sprinted deeper into the woods. She could only hope she made the right choice, trusting that Nick would find a way to escape. 2 minutes passed like hours. A clamoring of boots thundered behind her, piercing cries and shouts echoing from the clearing. She ducked behind a thick tree, pressing her back against the rough bark. Then silence, panic clawed at her throat until she peered out carefully just in time to see the men chase Nick down the creek's opposite bank. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered, desperate. Suddenly a loud explosion echoed like thunder, shaking the ground beneath her. A flash of light illuminated the night sky above them. A gunshot. "No," she swallowed hard, vision blurring as she fought against the suffocating fear. If Nick was hurt, Lily. James' voice broke through her thoughts, desperate and strained. He appeared unexpectedly, the dark figure of his form making her heart leap with relief and confusion. "What are you doing here? We need to go." "Where's Nick?" she cried, urgency spilling from her. "I don't know. I thought he was with you." He hurriedly replied, glancing back towards the way he came. Damn it. She spat angrily. We need him. I'll find him. James replied, determination igniting in his eyes. But we can't be here when they search this area. No. She grabbed his arm, desperate to get him to stay. You can't go back. They allow there's no choice in this. He looked deeper into her eyes, searching. We find Nick now or risk losing him forever. Stay safe no matter what. With that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving her trembling alone. The rustlings of the forest surrounded her, and the night air seemed to close in, smothering her resolve. She paced back and forth, every step lined with anticipation. Could she trust James? What if he failed, leaving her to face the consequences alone? The tension threatened to shatter her resolve, but before she could second-guess herself, something pulled her deeper into the night. James! She called out into the darkness, her voice echoing around her. Lily! Came a panicked shout, a familiar voice, one she might have recognized anywhere. Nick! She sprinted towards the sound, heart racing once more. She ducked under branches, momentum building wildly until she finally burst back into the clearing, where confusion swirled around her. Nick was fighting, struggling against two men who were already holding him down. Lily, no! He yelled as she charged towards them, her instincts flaring again. Everything blurred in a rush of chaos, a punch thrown, a shove. The air was thick with danger, loud with shouting. But she wouldn't back down. Get off him! She screamed, lunging forward, tackling one of the men to the ground. The weight of his body was jarring, but she forced him off Nick. Lily! Run! Nick shouted again, but she wouldn't leave him. Too late, the second man grabbed her, and in that instant, they crashed to the ground, limbs twisting in desperate struggle. Stop! Both of you! The third man shouted, voice booming like a storm. You think you can just throw your lives away? This is foolishness. Startled, they all froze. Recognizing the voice, her blood ran cold. It was Jim, the same man who had chased them before. And now he stood there, looming, unyielding. Enough! Fear coursed through Lily, tightening around her chest as she exchanged glances with Nick, who was regaining his footing nearby. In that moment, Jim stepped forward. You think you can expose the truth? You have no idea how deep this runs, he said, eyes narrowing. But I'm willing to make you a deal. What kind of deal? Lily spat, jaw set. Help me and I'll keep you both safe. Fight me and I'll crush everything you have. Lily's heart raced against the prospect of death, her dreams, her life with Nick and James, all hanging perilously. Lily? Nick whispered, eyes wide with uncertainty. What if he's lying? She shook her head, the fear tearing through her. No deal. Think. Jim's voice filled with sickly charm. What if the consequences unfold now? You think you're the only ones trying to unravel what I've put in play? The sounds of sirens grew louder, the weight of truth closing in, threatening to pull them under. We need to work together. But at what cost? Nick shot back, doubt etched on his features. I'm offering you a chance. All of you, Jim's voice dripped with false sympathy. Once the police get here, it's over for you. I will arrange an escape. Why should we trust you? Lily interrupted firmly. Because the alternative is death for none of you. You'll uncover things far worse than you can imagine. Your future hangs in the balance. Your decisions now will define everything. With shaking fingers, Lily turned to Nick. What do we do? His voice cracked, a mix of fear and defiance. We take the chance. We don't have an option. We make a deal, but we play him. We send him into a trap of his own design. Time stretched as they weighed their options. Was this truly a way out, or was it leading them deeper into the darkness? All right, she said, steeling her resolve, meeting Jim's cold gaze head on. We'll make a deal. But we need to know we can trust you. And if you cross us, there'll be hell to pay. He smirked, tilting his head. Then, let the games begin. Their lives wove together, 3 hearts beating in sync, bracing against the storm. What would dawn bring? Would they find safety or fall prey to the darkness waiting to engulf them? The path ahead was unclear, the stakes higher than ever. For each of them, fate hung delicately in the balance. And with one final glance at each other, they pulled together, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The night would not define them. They would carve out their destiny as they left behind the chaos of the past. Stay tuned. This is only the beginning. Now it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm you need to show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this electrifying conclusion. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what's coming next. This is the moment to get involved, so don't wait even one more second.